What's going on, everybody? It's Joe Hammond from the JHO Podcast, JH Overcomes. Welcome to another podcast where we have the best listeners, where we have the best guests, talking about overcoming adversity. And today we have another special guest for you guys today. And we're not going to be disappointing you guys at all with this podcast. I promise you that. I want to thank everyone who gave us all the love from podcast number one. And listen, all I got to say is, you guys are amazing. Thank you for the support. Thank you for all the shares. Thank you for all the likes. Thank you for all the comments. And listen, we set a goal. We did set a goal with this podcast. We're going to touch millions and millions of lives. And we can't do that without you. Okay, we can't do that without the listeners. We can't do that without, our wonderful guests. And I wanted to make sure that you guys know that, okay, we love you. We honor you. We respect you. Thank you for following us on Facebook. Thank you for following us on YouTube, everything. And you know what? Today we have another special guest for you guys. And, what I want you guys to do is, when you do go like the podcast, when you go comment on the podcast, when you do the things that we ask you to do on the podcast, the most important thing that I want you guys to realize, is it good for the podcast? Yes, absolutely. But more importantly, it's good for the people. Okay. We want you to share with more people. We want you to help other people overcome their adversities. And the only way that you can do that is by sharing the word, sharing the podcast, and making sure that you're doing your part to help out other human beings with this whole, overcoming adversity thing. So what I want you guys to realize is that you are more important than you realize. So thank you very much for all the love you've been giving us, and, just keep up the good work. So today, listen, let me tell you about this guy. Okay. I've known him for a while. Okay. And again, I'm not going to get too much into his story because he's got an amazing story. But this brother, okay, when we talk about overcoming adversity, okay, and being able to overcome your adversity and then being able to help others with your story, okay, this brother is the epitome of it. Okay. He has been knocked down. He has been kicked while he was down. He has been arrested. He has been out. He's been sick. He's been down, but in the end, he has always overcome the situation. And today I want you guys to help me welcome Mr. Richard Kaufman. Mr. Richard Kaufman, how are you, sir? All right.
Great applause.
Oh man, listen, you deserve it. You deserve that and then some. So listen, Rich, man, tell us a little bit about your story, man. We know that you go by the tag name of the comeback coach, okay? The comeback coach. And the one thing that people don't know, okay, on this podcast right now, at least some of them may know, but I want people to know where you got that name from, the comeback coach.
Okay. First of all, if you guys are watching me, just know that I can't see you. So because I'm 80% blind, but I have a vision for my life. So we're just going to talk about coming back and not letting anything stop you, no matter if it's a physical disability, a mental addiction. We're going to talk about just not letting anything stop you for the greatness that you were born to have.
Amen.
So they call me the comeback coach because I've been through a lot. I've been through alcoholism, homelessness, PTSD due to injury in the military, traumatic brain injury from getting run over by a Humvee on my head, blindness, depression, and I help others come back. Now, the way I met Joe is we've been friends for probably around 11 years now. I used to run a general nutrition center, so I helped a lot of people come back physically. And then after my injuries, I decided I had to give back some other way. So I started helping people get back mentally, spiritually, just try to get people back in the game and have them not quit on themselves,
Okay. So when you say that, okay, because first of all, let's go back a little bit. We're gonna stop real quick. Okay. That was my stop sign right there. That was my stop sound. Listen, we're not just gonna skim past things like you getting run over, okay, by a Humvee. Okay. And I'm hoping that, we're going to be able to get into that story later, as your story goes along. But if you did miss that, okay, what he did say, he was run over by a Humvee. Okay. So this is another a portion of overcoming, certain things. And listen, in the world of law enforcement and in the military world, we have what's called gallows humor. And, we might find some kind of humor in anything. Okay. And when I say, listen, man, I woke up this morning, I feel like I got hit by a truck. Okay. You literally, okay, got hit by a truck. You
Yeah.
know, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that story. But before we get there, I want to talk about, how, what it is that gets you going in the morning after all these things that you've been through. Is there something special that wakes you up? What do you do to get yourself going in the mornings?
Well, I had to kind of, okay, um, for the last couple months or last year, I've been dealing with some health issues. And then I went to go visit my dad about a month ago, and he's dying of pancreatic cancer. But every day he told me, he says, you know what? He says, I'm a believer, and I believe that I'm healed. And every day is a gift, so don't waste it. So where I used to sleep until 11, 12 o'clock, now I'm getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning and trying to give it my all, because I know that today is not promised to anybody. So I want to make the most of the day that I have. So that's been my main focus for the last, say, 2 months, is just getting the most out of every single day that we have.
That's beautiful, man. And a lot of people don't realize how, I know people out there will say, I'm not a morning person. I'm not a get up early kind of guy, kind of girl. But, you know, you make a good point. Okay. You want to get the most out of your day. You want to get the most out of, all the gifts that, that God has given you back. Okay. All the gifts that, that you have in your life, how you can help other people. And, waking up early is a good start. We woke up early this morning. I know you and I did. And I reached out to you before the show because I wanted to make sure that you and I touch base to make sure we know, exactly where we're going to go with this thing, because I don't like to hit people with surprises. So, the one thing that you said to me, you said, Joe, I hope you don't mind me wearing a hat. Okay. And, that just, I said, listen, of course not. I wear a hat all the time. And you were like, no, I just don't do a podcast at all without a hat. What is that all about?
All right. I don't know if you guys ever watched, there's a movie out a couple years, it came out as a movie called American Sniper. And the gentleman that what that movie was about, his name was Chris Kyle. He got out of the military and started helping other veterans that were dealing with PTSD. And he actually got gunned down by somebody he was trying to help. So when I started doing my podcasts and my interviews, I wanted to do something special. So I actually reached out to his wife and his kids. And I said, every time I do a podcast, I want to talk about your husband and what he did to help other veterans and people that are struggling with PTSD. So that's why I wear a hat in honor of Chris on every podcast I do. Because sometimes as time goes on, memories fade. And when somebody, it's just a way so people know that there are people out there that are willing to give their lives to help you if you're struggling with anything. So that's why I do that in honor of Chris and his wife and his kids.
I mean, that's amazing, man, that you would even, and that's something that we fail to do. Okay. We think that, listen, Chris was a hero. Okay. We all know this. And, if you don't know his story, please, I encourage everyone to go look up his story and, look up the movie if you have to, whatever it is that you got to do to learn about this man, but you took it a step further. Okay. You actually reached out to his wife and his family. Some people might think that he's just too big, or his family's too big, or his wife is too big. But what gave you the courage to reach out to him and reach out to his family at that time? Was it because you guys shared something as far as the military goes, or, did you feel led just to go through with that, even though you felt like this guy was just so big, such a big hero?
Well, no, actually it started maybe about the same time when I wrote my book. And I reached out to, now me and you are about the same age. Some of you viewers may be a little bit younger, but the original Superman was Christopher Reeve.
You're 25 too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying. Go ahead.
So Christopher Reeve was the original Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wrote my book, I actually reached out to Dana and Chris if they would, or most Chris was gone by this time, but reached out to his wife, Dana, asking him if I can use his quote for the opening of my book. Mm-hmm. And she was so gracious enough to let me use the opening quote to my book. So, I mean, if I can reach out to Superman, I definitely can reach out to the other Superman. Chris Kyle's family. And just knowing that you can reach out to somebody and you don't have fear, it didn't give me any fear when I reached out to General Petraeus last month and talked to him, because
Yeah.
I had no fear, because the worst they could do is say no. That's the worst case scenario.
I saw when you posted that you reached out to the general, and right then and there, I'm like, wow, this guy, he really gets after it, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. I don't want this just to be a military story or police story. This whole podcast, we're talking people stories. Okay, we're talking about real life people, and as much as these people were in the military, as much as Chris's family was in the military. The general and all these people, they're just people, right? They're just human beings, just like us, and they go through. And the fact that when something terrible happened to her husband, she wasn't thinking about the military. She was just thinking about how she lost her best friend. She lost her husband. And the one thing I want people to get from this podcast is to understand that we're talking about human beings. Okay, and the fact that we can remove those titles and remove the uniforms and remove the names of where we come from, underneath all of that, we're just human beings, just like you are. So when you reached out to the general, it kind of inspired me, okay, to start taking it another level and just start realizing that all these people are human beings just like we are, and they just have problems just like you and me, right? So the biggest thing that I noticed about you coming up, okay, over the last year or so, the one thing that sticks out to me was you recently released a YouTube video, right? And when I tell you, man, that this YouTube video just absolutely blew my mind, okay, about your story. And this is where we get into your story. Okay, we get into, the nuts and bolts of exactly what made you the person that you are today and how you overcame it. And when I watched your YouTube video, tears, man, tears, and just heartfelt emotions. And I want you to get a little bit into the YouTube video, because we are going to share the link with you guys. And if you guys don't know where Rich comes from, you're about to find out right now, and how he overcame all his adversities.
Okay, now the crux of the video was the three most important words in the English language. And if you guys don't get anything from this podcast, get a piece of paper, get a pen, and write this down. The three most important words of the English language are: today I decide. So my story has three parts. I don't think it's very inspiring. Some people do, but grew up in Jersey. Right now, where I'm sitting, I'm overlooking the Twin Towers where they once stood. Um, and right now, where I'm living now, I'm actually about 5 miles away from where the Twin Towers stood, and I'm also 3 miles away from the parking lot where I lived as a homeless man for about a year. I lived in my car. So it brings me back, and I'm very grateful and humbled that God brought me right back to where I came from. Um, my father left when I was 3 months old. Mother was an addict alcoholic, um, and she worked a lot. She was a nurse, and we all know how nurses, they work sometimes 7 days a week, working weekend shifts, holidays. So she did whatever she could to put food on the table.
Yeah.
Um, we moved around a lot. We were very poor. So I went to about 10 or 12 different schools, never really made friends, build relationships, because I never knew, well, am I still going to be around next month or next year? So I never made friends. Um, by On New Year's Eve, when I was 12 years old, parents went out to a party, and me and my cousins found a liquor cabinet. I had my first drink at the age of 12. I was a full-blown alcoholic by the age of 13. Uh, Joined the military. I had nothing going for me. I was a loser. Ninth grade education, so I do not have any education whatsoever besides what I've read, and I've read almost 5,000 books in my time now, um, because I didn't have that education, so I had to learn somehow. Joined the military, found drugs. So not only was I a drug addict, I was an alcoholic, and I got in trouble a lot in the military. got busted a bunch of times, and they finally decided that Uncle Sam doesn't need me as a nephew anymore. So they threw me out for being a drug addict and an alcoholic. Came home, went to live back with mom and dad. Now, me and my stepfather, the one I said my dad is dying right now, we never really got along, but it was mostly on me because he was a immigrant, came over literally on the boat from Italy, and worked 7 days a week, and he would get up at 5 in the morning and work 7 days until midnight. And I was a young punk, sleeping on the couch while he's out working. So I get it. I get where the whole disconnect happened. Tried to live with mom and dad. I was a head case. I couldn't listen, so they booted me out. And then I went to go live in a crack house. Now, if you guys are listening to this, I'm the only guy you're ever gonna know that was so bad that they got kicked out of a crack house. That's how bad I was. But my mother promised me I can come back in the house if I go to school. So I went to school to be a bartender. It's not the smartest thing to do, but I finished at the top of the class. I got a job the first night I graduated, which was New Year's Eve, 1988. A friend of mine, he was a police officer, and he owned a bar down in Newark, hired me. Everything was going good. Everything was going great. I started drinking, and then about 8 hours later, I hear, and I go to answer the door, and it was him and his 5 of his buddies coming to lock me up because I robbed the place. I gave away like $2,000 worth of free drinks. I had like $5,000 in my pocket. So of course I'm looking at like 5 years in jail for grand larceny. Now I want to preface this by saying, for you guys that are listening to this, I've always had somebody that's stood in the gap for me when I couldn't help myself. Now I never thought about it, but the same guy that I robbed is a guy that stood in the gap for me because he's seen something in me. Maybe he just didn't want to see me going to jail, at 20 years old. And I was good looking back then, a good looking white boy, going to jail, state prison in Jersey.
Right.
So he said, I'm going to give you a break. I need the money back in 24 hours, which my parents did help me out. And my stepfather helped me out, which was shocking. And you got to go to 90 meetings in 90 days of Alcoholics Anonymous. So there's what those three words come in. Today, I decided. So I decided instead of going to jail, I'm going to go to those meetings. And instead of hitting 90 meetings in 90 days, I hit like 300 meetings in a row. And I haven't had a drink since January 1st, 1989.
Hey man, listen, that is one heck of a story, man. Listen, let me and the one thing I heard throughout this whole story is and I'll let you get back to it, was every time you messed up, someone was there for you. Okay. You were never, you were never left out there alone. Even no matter how many times you kept messing up. Okay. You said it yourself. These are your words. You were a punk. Okay.
Yeah.
You couldn't get it right. You were kicked out of the military. You were kicked out of your house. You were, not just kicked out of the military once, but you've been kicked out of the military twice. And now you have someone who's offering to help you out there. A police officer, brother gives you a job, and you graduate from bartending school, okay, as someone who likes to drink, and you graduate. I think it was what, New Year's Eve, just close to New Year's Eve. So that was your first gig. That was your first one, New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And on your first gig, you get intoxicated, and you steal the money from the register, buy the bar, basically give out $2,000 worth of drinks. Now at this point, okay, you're already going to jail. Okay, you're already getting locked up. He shows up with his brothers. That had to be hard on him, because here he is. He gave you an opportunity. You're his friend, but you disappointed even him. Someone who just gave you, pretty much the shirt off of their back, and you bit the hand that fed you. at what point did you realize that this part of you was becoming a problem? Okay. And I know you've been messing up, but what about the point where you realize that everybody that helps you, you turn around and hurt? At what point was that a problem for you?
I never really thought about it until the morning of September 11th of 2001. Even after the whole getting locked up, I still had that same attitude. Except I just wasn't drinking. So there's a difference between being dry and being sober. I was dry until September 11th, 2001. September 12th, 2001, I became sober. So there's a big difference.
Hmm. And tell me what that big difference is between dry and between sober.
Now, and I try to be a Christian man, so if I curse, I apologize to you guys that are listening to this, but it's the only way I can get it across.
Gotcha.
When you're dry, it means you're an asshole that doesn't drink.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sober, it means you're no longer an asshole and you no longer drink and you no longer live for yourself, but you live for others. That's what being sober means, in my eyes.
Gotcha. So what I'm saying, so in essence, what you're saying is that you were always this guy on the inside. Okay, you were just fighting him back and fighting him back. What was it that caused you to hold that guy back like today? Because when I met you, you weren't that guy. Okay, all the years I've known you, you haven't been that guy. At least I haven't seen. And whatever goes on behind closed doors, that's between you and God, right? But you know, the person that you have become, okay, the man that you have become, all the people that you have reached out to, all the people that you have helped over the time, okay, at what point did you realize that I really got to put this guy to bed and start helping other people?
Okay, that's the second part of my story. So
Go.
I moved to South Carolina, joined the South Carolina. I rejoined the military because I thought there was some unfinished business that I wanted to take care of. Joined the military again in the South Carolina National Guard. Now, if anybody knows anything about the South, Yankees are not too popular down south, and then you get a young punk that has an attitude and is always getting in trouble. You're that much less popular. So I was not a very popular guy in my unit. And even though I joined the military again, I got busted a few times. I was due to be thrown out of the military either September 30th or 30, whatever the end of the month was. I was due to be thrown out of the military for a second time. But what happened was, remember, this is a God thing. I was getting ready for work. I was working at a GNC back then, so that's how long I've been with GNC. And my ex-girlfriend yells for me, and I come in, and I see the first tower was on fire. We all were watching it, and we thought, all right, maybe it's an accident. And then we seen the second tower get hit, and we knew we were under attack. Now, I'm in the South Carolina National Guard at this time. And just picture this. If you guys just close your eyes for a second. I'm actually looking at the TV, and all my gear is to the right of the TV because I got to turn all my stuff in because I'm being thrown out of the military for a second time. And I'm watching, and then I see what happens in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And then I've seen what happened in the Pentagon. And something broke in me. I became a broken man because I'm watching people jumping out of these buildings, and I'm watching police officers and the 343 firefighters going into the buildings while everybody else is trying to get out. And then I seen these soldiers that were at the Pentagon, and they weren't coming home. And something broke inside of me, and I said, something said to me, you have the honor of being in the military, and you're wasting it all. You're not, you're still a loser. You're just not drinking. And I prayed to God there, right on the couch, because I broke down. I cried. I said, Lord, if you give me a second chance to be in the military, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to helping people that can't help themselves. I don't want to be that man anymore. I called my company commander up, and we're still friends to this day, me and him. I begged to keep me, and he's seen something different in me Now, there's those three words again. Today, I decided. That day, I decided I didn't want to be the man that I was. And I asked God to help me be the man that He wants me to be. So thank God that they kept me. Within 3 years, I became Soldier of the Year. I became a non-commissioned officer. So, those three words mean a lot to me. Today I decide. And that was the biggest turning point. Is That's when I no longer was the guy named Rick. That's when I became Richard. And that's when I started to become the man God wants me to be.
That's incredible, man. And listen, you know, just by you saying that, okay, today I decided. Okay, today I decided. Not only did you make a decision, okay, because we all make a decision, right? And this goes back to the listeners and having people understand that, okay, before you can do anything, okay, at first you have to make a decision. Now, the the bridge between making a decision and then acting on that decision, okay, is a long bridge for some people. Okay, sometimes we decide we want to do better, we decide that, we want our life to change, but we're still messing up. You made some decisions in your past to change, but you just kept messing up, you just couldn't get right. And it wasn't until you turned to God and said, God, I want to be different. Okay, I want to be changed, I don't want to be that guy anymore. And that's where most of your help came from, because here again, your commander, okay, again, you're down, you're out, and someone again steps in there and helps you and sees a different side of you. So you've not only failed, over and over again, but you've been given more chances each and every time. And that right there in itself, Rich, is something that we all can learn, that no matter how many times you fail, okay, you can still get up and keep going. Okay. We're just, I posted something the other day when I talked about how, we're not, our failures don't our failures don't make us, you know, non-human. Okay. Our failures actually make us human. Okay. It just makes us better people, because we don't learn unless we fail. Right. So all these things that you've been learning from and learning from, now you have the opportunity to get back in the military. You have your shot. Okay, I'm cleaned up now, I feel better. I'm no longer, that butthole you talked about, I'm no longer that guy. Now I'm back in the military, let's go, it's time to change this life around. What happens at that point?
Well, for you guys that are listening, so I got demoted, and I was at the bottom of the rung, and I had to make a decision. What are the people that are winning? What are they doing that I'm not doing?
Mm,
So I made a decision to. There's that three things
there you go.
that I went to my first weekend drill, and I just watched, and I watched what other people did. And so what I did is I started getting to work. When we had drills, I would get there an hour early. I
Mm,
would stay an hour late. I would, instead of hanging out with the people that were the same rank with me, I started following the people that were 5, 6 ranks ahead of me.
mm,
And I just started doing what the winners do. And I find the same thing, in life. Just follow what the people that are winning are doing. Don't follow the people that are in the same muck that you are, because they can't help you out. But the
mm.
people that, if you follow the people that are winning, not just in business, but in life, in relationships, finding good mentors is a great thing to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right where we want to be with this point right here. Your circle matters, man. And not only did you make a decision, okay, but you also took the steps in that decision. Okay, you decided to get from around the people who were bringing you down, to stop hanging out in the wrong circles, to stop hanging around people who were just like you, because you're not going to grow in that area. And success leaves clues. Okay, it does leave clues. It's a cliche now. Everything that we say now, the internet has just muddled it up, and just, it's all been, dragged through the mud. Success leaves clues, and, get around the right circle. But when it comes down to it, it's true. It really is true. And I remember when, even for me, when I decided to take myself to another level, I had to get from around the people who were dragging me down. Not that they were bad people, okay, because I was one of them, right? It doesn't make them bad human beings, but the decisions that they were making, okay, just weren't in sync with where I wanted to be. So what you started to do, you started to look forward. Okay. You started to hang out with people and follow the leaders. Okay. Follow the leaders in your area, in your industry, in your business, in the military, because that's exactly what you wanted to be. You decided to get around the right people. And how important was that? Okay. In your growth, how important? I mean, where did that take you from that point?
Oh, well, okay. Now this is going to get to the third part of my story. Uh,
Awesome.
moved back to New Jersey. Got back with my bride. People know my bride. I
Mhm.
never call her my wife. She's my bride.
Yeah.
We've known each other for over 30 years. So she knew me when I was the bad child. So now
Mm.
she knows,
Gotcha.
she knew me either from, she loved me. She found something loving in me when I felt like I was unlovable. And she still loves me to this day. But I moved back to New Jersey, joined the New Jersey National Guard. First drill out, going down to drill, and I'm the convoy commander, and I got to make sure that everybody gets there safe. And if you guys don't know, you ever see the Army guys that are wearing the big helmets? They're called Kevlar helmets, and they're pretty much bulletproof, and they're make sure that you don't get killed if you get shot. Um, I never usually wore mine, but that day, for some reason, it was a God thing. Again, that day I decided to wear a Kevlar,
Yeah.
and a vehicle broke down, and I had to get him off of the highway. Instead of him hitting the brakes, I'm ground guiding him. Instead of him hitting the brakes, he hit the gas, and he ran over the whole right side of my body, ran over my head. I had an ocular stroke, but I decided, all right, I'm going to suck it up. I'll deal with it later. Um, and I was in great shape back then. I was jacked, so I just shook it off and got down to where we were going, and I started losing my eyesight very slowly. I called my wife, told her what happened, and I finished my 2 weeks. I didn't come home.
Hold on. We're not just going to skip past that. Okay. I need you to, we need to, let's rewind that a little bit. Okay. You just got ran over by a Humvee. Okay. The whole right side of your body,
Yeah.
you have an ocular stroke, and you just shake it off like it's going to be good. I'm fine. Don't worry, brother. We're good. My bad. I should have been in the way. At that point, bro, like you have to make a decision. Again, you made a decision to keep pushing forward. And it seems like your decisions that you're making, okay, is really where this all comes together. Okay. You're making decisions in your life that are pushing you forward. You decided to push yourself through that pain that day. Now, was that decision the right one? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. I'm not here to judge you, but you decided that there was nothing that was going to stop you. And when that happened, you pushed yourself through the pain. You pushed yourself through everything that you were going through at that moment just to get the job done. Okay. The decision to wear the helmet, the decision to push through the pain, the decision to help other people. And this is where you are right now. That's incredible, man, to me that you just
But
got to.
now, one
Yeah.
of the reasons that I kind of didn't tell anybody, because nobody knew except the four guys in my vehicle, because the kid that was driving was a young private, and if he would have gotten in trouble. I mean, he would have gotten deep trouble,
Mm,
and he could have got busted. It could have ruined his career. So
mm.
I figure I'd rather take the bump
Wow.
and deal with the consequences later than
Wow.
this guy, because I was that guy that screwed up before. So I would known how, I knew how that kid felt, and I didn't want to put him through what I went through. So I figured, I'll take the bump, and we'll suck up and we'll drive on and we'll deal with it later.
Wow. So 2 weeks later, where are you?
Come back home. I go to Claramas and I check myself into the doctor. Now, me and my wife weren't married at this time. And meanwhile, we find out that because of the stroke, my retina got detached in my left eye. That's why I'm blind. And the doctor comes in. He says, "I can't touch you." He's like, "If you don't have $5,000 cash, I can't even touch you." And he
Wow.
walked out the room. And that's when I was totally destroyed. Um, and then now the military is, I guess, it's kind of like if you're a police officer. If you can't see, you can't shoot. So pretty much, you're pretty much worthless.
Yeah.
So I had to go through the medical board, and that's when they decide what they're going to do, if they're going to keep you or not. And for about a year and a half, I had to go to, instead of going to drill, I would go sit in his room for 2 days, and just till they decided what they wanted to do with me. And the day that they decided what they wanted to do with me, it was the day that I almost committed suicide, and that was a really life changing day. That's when the whole "today I decided" thing that we talked about really came about what's going to be happening in April. But that's when the rubber hit the road, was that day when I decided to kill myself.
Wow. So was there a plan? Did you follow through with the plan? Was it something that you attempted to do, or
Well,
did
the
you?
plan was, I knew it was coming. I knew that I was going to be retired, if you call it. I knew it was coming, but the hardest part for me was, okay, I worked so hard to become Sergeant Kaufman. Everything I put in is that being the best officer I can be. I went to every school. I volunteered for everything, took every class. And then to know, when they came to me, they called me in the office. They said, I need your ID. You're no longer a member of the United States military. So here I am, lost my vision, and now I lost my career, and I don't know who Richard is. And I decided, I said, you know what? I'm like, because my family was down the shore. I got a newborn baby, and I decided, okay, when I get in the car, I'm going to get on the highway, because in New Jersey they have the highways, and they have where the highway divides, these concrete pillars. I decided, I said, I'm going to get to 100 miles an hour. I'm going to put the car in cruise control, turn on the radio. I'm just going to close my eyes, and then once it goes off the road, I'll hit the divider and I'll be gone. So I get in the car, call my wife, say I'm on my way. Just so I wanted to hear her voice one more time to tell her I love her, because I knew I was probably not going to talk to her again. I get in the car hits 100 miles an hour. I put on the cruise control, close my eyes, and I feel the car moving, and I'm expecting it to die. And then all of a sudden, the song called, I saw God today. And I thought about my newborn baby and how much she needed her daddy. And at that moment is when I decided I didn't want to be a statistic, that I wanted to be a dad and a husband. And that's when I got to meet, met up with the family. And I told my wife, I said, I'm not feeling right. I said, I don't feel good. I'll probably get to eat my gun when we go home if I don't get help. So we got home and we got help. And I went to go see a therapist, and I'm still seeing the same therapist to this day. And that was where the whole "today I decided" thing came about. Is, that decision. Instead of being a statistic, I want to be a daddy and a husband.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. As I'm sitting here and I'm listening to your story, Rich, it seems like there is as a matter of fact, I believe wholeheartedly there's a calling on your life. And, now that you've gotten past these things, and you know, okay, it's got to be crystal clear, you know, to you right now, because now you're here and you're telling your story. And I mean, you had everything happen to you, man. You overcame drugs, you overcame alcohol, you overcame being arrested, you overcame being that guy. Um, you overcame being kicked out of the military multiple times, and then finally you get into the military, and you're doing things right, and you're walking by the line, and you're living right, and then you get hit, you get run over by a vehicle. And not only that, you get kicked out. Okay. So as soon as you feel like you get your life together, as soon as you felt like everything was turning around for you, boom, you get hit again. You get hit again. And you decide to take your own life. And not only just do you decide to take your own life, but you put a plan in place. Okay. You were carrying it out. And something as simple as a song comes on the radio and wakes you back up and causes you to realize that there's so much more to live for, that there's so much more that you can give and so much more that you can do in this world. Even though the military had been taken away from you, even though, you had messed up in the past, you still have a purpose. And by you walking in that purpose right now, okay, by you overcoming all those situations, by you fighting through, you bent, but you didn't break. Okay. And that just made you stronger. And again, I hate to say things that just sound so cliche that, if it doesn't, whatever you go through, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. But it's true. It's so true. And you are a living testament of that, because you're sitting here and you're able to help other people with your story. Your story today on this podcast is going to save someone's life. Your story today is going to help thousands of people. And, I'm proud to know you. I'm honored to have you on the show. And not only are you here, okay, but you're reaching out to help other people. Tell me how what are you doing right now to help other people? What is where are you right now, Rich Kaufman, the comeback coach?
Well, now to preface it, now this whole year and a half that I'm sitting down at waiting to get out processed, I made a choice. Again, there's those today. I decided I can either sit there like everybody else playing checkers and chess and cards, or I can start educating myself. Like I said, I've read over 5,000 books in my time. So I would sit there and just read for those 10 or 12 hours each day. And I kept hearing his name, Gary V, pop up. Gary V. I'm like, who's Gary V? And I reached out to Gary V because I said, I keep hearing all about you. I know you're a Jersey boy. So I said, I want to talk. And I got to meet him for a little bit and talk to him. And he said something to me because I said, Gary, before I leave here.
There you go. There you go. Reaching out to big names again. I mean, you don't get any bigger than reaching out to that person. So go ahead.
I need something, give me a nugget. Give me something. And he said, I'm going to give you two things. He said, first of all, your legacy will always be more valuable than your currency. And that's when I really started thinking, well, what is my legacy?
Yeah.
And that became a big issue, because I had two uncles that passed away. Now, I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but they both passed away. And one of them was a young man, born again Christian. Everybody loved him. When he died, they had to have 3 services. Place was packed.
Yeah.
And then I had my other uncle. He was kind of old school, kept to himself. And 8 people showed up to his to his funeral. Yeah. And I started thinking, which guy am I going to be? What is somebody to say about me at my funeral? Did I impact their life? Did I make a difference? And that's when I really started thinking, how can I impact this world? And what happened was a friend of mine invited me on his podcast, and we started talking about what I was doing, with GNC and working with guys from the WWE and all that good stuff. And then I started telling him my backstory. And he said, that's what people need to hear. People need to hear. Everybody loves a Rocky movie because of the comeback. If Rocky never came back and won a championship in the second Rocky, they would have never watched Rocky 3. Right. So everybody loves a comeback story. And he's like, you are the ultimate comeback story, and your story needs to be told. So that's when I just started. I wrote the book, and that's when I started going on podcasts and talking to people about that. Everybody, my tagline is, everybody loves a comeback story. And today it's your day. And if people could just realize that everybody can come back from whatever it is, you can come back. You don't have to stay in the muck. You can get out of whatever you're in. You can come back.
And there you have it. Okay. That right there in a nutshell is everything that we've talked about. you made some, some decisions in your life. Okay. And decisions create momentum, right? Whether it's negative momentum or positive momentum. And here you are, you outweighed the negative decisions that you were making. Okay. And that's what it comes down to, just making better decisions. Okay. And when you started making better decisions, okay, and they weren't really big decisions. Okay. These were simple things. These were decisions to be better and then acting in it. Our decisions create momentum, and the momentum that you have created now, man. Listen, I'm proud of you. I'm happy to call you a friend, not just a podcast guest. You are truly a comeback story. And if there's anything that people can learn from listening to this podcast today, is exactly that. You can come back from anything you face, okay, other than death. Okay, anything that you face, you can come back from it. And Rich Kaufman, man, you are the true comeback coach, man. And I'm happy again to have you on the show. So thank you for coming out. Hey, listen, man, tell people where they can find you, man, because I need people to be inspired by you, to be able to reach out to you, somebody needs to reach out to another big name. Okay. And then they're going to be reaching out to you, man, but you're touchable. Tell us where we can find you.
Well, this is the second thing Gary told me that I can use, and I've been using it ever since. I said, all right, before I leave here, you're going to give me something to use. I didn't drive all the way here for nothing. And of course, he took my hat, the one I was wearing. It's hanging up in his office right now. And I said, I need something to get my name out there. He says, from now on, anything you do, make yourself a hashtag. So I started to hashtag the comeback coach. Now, if you go in your toolbar and hit the comeback coach, it'll come up on my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Tumblr, Smoke and Bacon, everything. It comes up on all my social media.
That's incredible.
One hashtag.
See that's one thing that we can learn. Okay. You want to get out there, hashtag yourself. Okay. And that's the best way to get yourself out there. And you also, you host a podcast, man. And listen, that's another thing we're not going to skip past. I believe, okay. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. The last I heard was your podcast for veterans is number 8 in the world. Is that what that is right now?
It's called, we are the number 8 veteran podcast in the world. It's called Success. Your why powers your how. Because if you don't know your why, when the tough times comes, you're not going to survive. So you have to know what your why is. Because when you know your why, you'll find out your how.
That's incredible, man. Thank you. Hey, listen, Rich, thank you, man. Thank you for everything that you shared with us today. I'm sure that people, who did grab their notebooks, okay, are able to take something away. And again, this is not a military story. It's not a police story. This is a life story. Okay. And that's the one thing I want people to realize about the JHOvercomes podcast is that no matter who you are in this world, you can always come here. Okay. And find out stories about life, because we have some people that come on this show, and I'm promising you this coming in the future, that I know for a fact have overcome at the highest possible level.
Can I just say one thing before we head off?
Absolutely.
April 3rd, there's an amazing speaker that's going to be at our event. His name is Joe Hammond. It's going to be a virtual summit dealing with mental health and resilience. And if you just hashtag today I decide, you can find out what's going on, and it's free to everybody in the world. To anybody, and it's free and it's virtual. And it's going to be helping with the mind, body, and soul. And Joe is going to be one of our speakers.
Hey man, thank you. I'm going to give myself a hand right quick, because I don't give myself a hand too often, but I'm going to do it today. So hey, Rich, man, thank you so much again, man. Thank you so much for coming out. There you have it, folks. Okay, this is the Comeback Coach. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And listen, go check out the podcast, okay, the audio portion of the podcast. Some of you might be watching the video, but leave a comment, hit a like, hit a share. People, my people over there, the sponsors over there, they like to see that stuff. So, do that. But most importantly, remember this. Does it help the podcast when you do things like that? Absolutely. But more importantly, it helps someone else. All right. I'm your boy, Joe. JHOvercomes, America's friendliest cop. I will see you when I see you. But until then, peace. And I mean that literally, people. Peace.